Since its launch in 2005, Broad Street Review has sought to promote the exchange of viewpoints rather than any particular point of view. To that end, we welcome commentary from professionals and amateurs alike about the performing and visual arts, as well as any other field of interest to our eclectic group of contributors. The following interview was submitted to Broad Street Review, powered by Rep Radio. I am your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in Rep Radio Studio B, and I am here with three creative gentlemen in our community, and we will go through introductions, and we'll give a little bit of backstory. Two of you have been here before, and one of you is new, so we'll start with the new.
Hello, my name is Terrell Green. What else do you want to know about me?
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Born and raised in Philadelphia. Went to study theater at Marymount Manhattan College and Oxford University. And now I work in public health and city government, teaching sexual health awareness to youth with autism, using theater as our teaching module, and arts education as well.
Okay. Yeah. Welcome to Rep Radio.
Ozzie Jones, director, teacher.
Welcome back to Rep Radio.
Hi, Brian Anthony Wilson, local actor, born and raised in Philly, live in Cherry Hill now.
And light-skinned.
Yes, light-skinned. Most days, except for the summer.
Toasted caramel.
Yes.
So, thank you.
And welcome back to Rep Radio. It's been a while since you and I chatted.
It's been too long.
I know. I think, what was it, Assassin? Was it Assassin?
Yeah.
Probably the last one.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
What's it, 2013?
Yeah.
Man.
Even though I see you a lot. Yeah. It just kind of works like that. There's some immediate stuff that has to get done. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not making excuses.
No. I'm glad to be
all right,
now.
so I brought you three gentlemen together because at the end of October, we celebrated excellence in our community, and conversation was a brewing. So you were all at the forefront of that conversation, and so I wanted to just kind of create a little platform, kind of talk a little bit more about it, and we'll sort of dig a little deeper in it. But what I'd like to know is how, refresh our audience and tell us how the three of you wade through the community, how you make your way through our creative community.
For me, Terrell, I stopped trying to be a part of, I guess, the mainstream, I like to call it South of Broad clan here in Philadelphia. And I started going into communities and using theater as a teaching tool and making it accessible for folks who had never used theater. So I found myself working with people who had little to no literacy skills, people who had little to no public speaking skills, and teaching them theater. And I saw the power that theater had. I had young men who would say, actually, I'm not going to go to the streets. I'm going to go to college and study acting, And I saw that happen in 9 months' time, just teaching theater. And then I had, parents who had never talked to their youth before because they have autism, find a way to communicate because we use theater as a teaching module. So I began to take my art and reclaim it in the way that, I'm going to use this to actually allow people to connect within their communities before trying to connect outside of their communities. So I just reclaimed my art in a way to emerge in communities. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great. And Ozzie?
I think it's a very similar answer over the past 20 plus years, which I can't believe I can say with a straight face. But for me, it's it's very simple. Like I work with people who I like and that like me back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when it comes to that, ultimately, it kind of works on racial lines, but it doesn't. There are, as as Terrell was saying, there are, very established across South Broad Street artists who fit that description. There are artists in prison that fit that description. It's, which is what I was kind of trying to get at when I was talking about it, is like, like Brian and I have worked together a lot, and he knows what my process is like. Like, I mean, I do this because I want to have fun. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, I have things I want to say. I have things I want to get across, and I want to like who I work with, and I want who I work with to like me. So as long as that's happening, everything is everything. And in my career, that's happened. So.
Okay. And Brian?
It's complicated because I'm an actor. I'm not, what these brothers do. I greatly admire, and they have a lot of different skill sets. I only have one that I'm still working on, but I'm also involved in the, with the Barrymores, and I'm one of the only persons of color there. So I take that responsibility seriously. And in the past few years, I used to be, I guess hired a lot in the, would you say south of, but I've kind of fallen out of favor for whatever reason. So, and I've had to seek, jobs elsewhere. I haven't worked in Philly for a while, and but I'm still involved in the theater community because I have to see so many different shows. So, I mean, I see probably 60 to 70 shows within this theater community. So I'm immersed in it that way, but not, on the stage right now. So, and it's, I was at the Barrymores, and when we started this conversation on Facebook, it was because I read what Ozzie was saying about Michael Lalonde, and I worked with Michael a few times, and and it was just heartbreaking that he was forgotten by this theater community that Ozzie so eloquently put it, that he put so much out into it, and I just put something on Facebook, and then some stuff started rolling. Michael, and also Richard Poppy Floyd, and my man Rodney Gilbert, who just passed, and had his celebration today up in NJPAC in Newark. But we are this, like the invisible people sometime, and I don't think we're underappreciated, undervalued, and underrecognized a lot, and in this community. And some theater companies, I take my hat off to. They do. I will be involved with a multicultural version of Diary of Anne Frank at People's Light, but other theater companies, it's very rare when you see somebody of color. Or or if you do, it's in a subservient role in some places. So it's like I said, it's complicated. I mean, it's complicated and it's also simple, I guess. It's like, but it's like I don't want to put any nice white people out of work, but it's like, hey, give us a chance too. To some companies. Some companies, like I said, are on board and they're trying to do something. So it's a conversation that needs to be passed up with.
Yeah. So I saw 97 productions last year.
You got me beat.
That's they're not all in this community. Some up in New York.
Oh,
and,
okay. Yeah.
So I think I get around the community, and I think I see a good amount. But I noticed at the folding of the Theater Alliance of Greater Philadelphia that it seemed like 40 companies just sort of disappeared, and now we kind of have this group of 35 that are Barrymore eligible, and they're the ones that tend to get the most attention.
Mm-hmm.
And when I served on the board of the Theater Alliance, I was a Barrymore nominator for quite a few seasons before I started Rep Radio. So I got around the community.
So you know the deal, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so when the conversations came up about the Barrymores, and whenever there's this argument about who won the awards, I always have sort of mixed feelings about it, because I know what the process is, and I know that I know what the makeup of the nominating pool and the judges are. So it's interesting that it still appears the way it is when we get to that stage to celebrate our community as a whole. That it does not appear that we are shining a light on everyone out there. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Barrymores because there's been this conversation about their validity, and as the Theater Alliance folded, I felt like the art service part of the art service organization sort of disappeared, and now we are just propping up the award show. In a sense, we're, it's kind of like in New York, it's the Broadway League and the American Theater Wing. It's like we only have one part of that, and it's just the awards. And I know that the people on the inside do not believe that, and they're trying to figure out a way to make that work. But I don't necessarily think that they have all of the voices at the table for that. So it'll be interesting. I would like to know all of your thoughts on the Barrymore Awards for excellence in Philadelphia theater. What do you think about them?
Well, actually, I mean, speaking for myself, I can't in good conscience make an argument that I don't think that they are diverse or that they focus on artists of color and look at their work, because I personally, when I have made work that has fit their criteria, have always been recognized. Mm-hmm. So I'd be fronting if I said they never do that, because they've done that with me my entire career since I was 24. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that would be real whack if I acted like that wasn't the case, because that's always been the case with me. So I think if we were really going to have a conversation about expanding, and even outside of race, in terms of gender and sexual orientation and even just aesthetic, right? I think if they wanted to expand that the issue wouldn't be necessarily the issue of getting different people in positions of power, but I quite frankly think the barometer is the amount of shows that you have to have run in order to be considered. Mm-hmm. Because I know that over the years, I've done a lot of work that I know if it had been the amount of shows that you have to have in order to be considered, that it would have been considered. Like the Death of a Salesman I did with Cash Goins would absolutely have been Barrymore nominated. Oh yeah. The 12 Angry Men that I did would absolutely have been Barrymore nominated. The meeting I did would absolutely have been Barrymore nominated. The show I just did with Ursula Rucker would absolutely have been Barrymore nominated. But there were 3 performances. There were 6 performances. And I think what the problem is that the number of shows that they make as a requirement for you to be recommended at bare minimum ends up being a discussion of bricks and mortar and not art.
Yeah.
Because from all these years of doing it, I know that if you're going to do a show that runs for longer than 10 shows, that is only possible if you own the building that you are in.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of theater being made in Philadelphia by people of all colors, all sexual orientations, all everything, all classes, where they don't own the building. Yeah. So I think the number of shows that they require in order for you to be recommended or to be considered is such that it's going to be, the Wilma, the Arden, People's Light, like it's going to be people who own their building. And then if you make the notion excellence, really what you end up talking about is the excellence of the people who own their building and not necessarily the excellence of the theater itself. Do you see what I mean? So, like, the last Barrymore nominations I got were for a show I did at Theater Horizon.
Yeah, Black too.
The Black Nativity I did at Theater Horizon. But, I mean, and it, you know, I told the sister that runs the spot, like, I told her from the door, I was like, get your tuxedo ready, because, like, we going. Because, I mean, I know how it can get when you get like that.
Yeah.
But I told her that because she owned the building, and I knew we were going to have enough runs to make it relevant. And in my experience, whenever I've done something that has fit that requirement, and it has also been excellent, and, you know, any of you that know my work, I mean, I know you do, and you know to a smaller degree. I mean, my work is unflinchingly black, and always has been, and is sometimes politically adventurous as well. So my stuff ain't easy to say. If you white, my stuff is not easy to go, I'm with that, too. And they always have. Like, when it's been actually excellent, they always have. So I can't say that not recognizing excellence because I'm black is the thing. What I can say that is the lion's share of the work that I've done over these years has been exceptional. Has it fit the criteria of how many shows you need to see in order to be the, you know what I mean? When in fact it has been just as excellent as what we did at Theater Horizon. But at the same time, when it comes to awards, I mean, I kind of feel like it's their awards, so they got every right to make the criteria whatever the hell they want to make.
Well, let me just speak on two things. Well, one, devil's advocate. Part of the issue is because of the process. Because you've been a nominator, I've been a nominator, and also a judge. So you have to see the show within the first 3 days of opening as a nominator, and then it goes through the process so the judges can come out and go see it. So there's no time to do that if it's only 3 shows or 6 shows.
Right.
So that's, you know, and maybe there should be a separate category for that.
Yeah.
You know,
Which would be dope.
yeah. And secondly, is what is, and I was having this discussion with my wife, because as a person of color, we have to be adept at circumnavigating this European mold of theater or whatever, or any if you want to make any type of success in this business, you have to be able to circumnavigate those waters. Vice versa is not true. You know, Ozzie has done stuff internationally, and he understands what that criteria is, and kind of I have too. Because I'm the only black person in the room, you know, or in a play sometimes. Well, that time has passed, but you know, when I was coming up, but anyway, I think there is a different criteria as to what the level of excellence is, and sometimes I don't know that people that aren't of color, like if they go see an August Wilson play, it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of black people talking on stage, and I'm not exactly sure if they get the level of excellence. I mean, I've been in 7 of the 10 things, and I've seen it on Broadway or whatever, and met August and been in this company, and sometimes I don't know that they get how. I mean, it's like doing Shakespeare, you know. August is that rhythm, that, you know, and that dexterity you have to have with the language, and I don't know that some folks can properly appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, not talking down at anybody, but on the same token, we have to be able to go and see Shakespeare and do Shakespeare and understand it, you know, and that's the European version of, you know, excellence or whatever. But so sometimes I think there's a disconnect because some of it is culturally more relevant to us, whereas we have to be able to immerse ourselves in both worlds, you know, in order to have some success. They don't have to, you know, do that. So, like I said, it's tricky and it's complicated, and I feel like I'm like, when I wake up, I look in the mirror, I'm a black man. That's what I, you know, and I go to shows and I count how many people of color are there. I go to movies. I count how many people of color are in those movies who has speaking lines. And there's some places like I have to I don't take my daughter there anymore, but I take my daughter to a couple of shows at the Walnut. But when you do Elf, which is a fantasy, and there are no people of color that have speaking lines, it's a fantasy. I understand that you got, a lot of blue hairs or whatever. Maybe there'll be an uproar if you put too many people of color up on stage. But I'm sorry, I can't take my daughter to see something like that because I want her to be able to look on the stage and see herself.
See herself.
When
yes.
I go to the Arden, I can do that. There's a girl there that has hair like her, that has a wide nose like her. But if I take her to Walnut, she's not going to see that except maybe two people in the background. I went to see a show upstairs in the smaller space, and I did see they had a few black kids in the Annie cast, which I was happy about. So I have to check that out. But yeah, it enrages me sometimes, and I used to get the Hollywood Reporter, and I get Entertainment Weekly, and it's like, wow. How many white people can you put on the cover? I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have nothing against white people. It's like, include us. The world is changing.
Yeah.
I think for me, I too am a Barrymore nominator. It's my second season. I've actually, part of my open letter to Theater Philadelphia was resigning, actually. Yeah, and for me, it's two parts. For the Barrymore Awards, the two things that I focus the most on is the Emerging Artist Award and the Evolving Theater Company Award, because they come with such hefty monetary prizes as well. And as a person, a millennial age person here in the city, and being around so many different artists who are in their communities working, whether it be like Power Street Theater or Theater in the X, and I see these artists using theater to effectively change communities, but then you see these people getting $15,000 or $20,000 in awards, and it's like, well, I think you were nominated for the Emerging Artist last year. How can you emerge again? And I mean, that's just my opinion on it. Yeah. Or, Evolving Theater Company is, when I went to see Running Numbers Theater in the X, it was amazing to see at Malcolm X Park, dirt bikes riding along 52nd Street, but also, these folks creating really hard theater shapes in the middle of a park while, you hear all this, and last year I went to see a play and I think there was like gunshots ringing the street. Not saying that that's what theater has to be, but it's real life, These are people who are actually taking theater and making it accessible to folks who may not travel down the L to 2nd and Market Street, and I really went in that way, and that's why I wanted to talk about the Barrymores, because I'm looking at these folks when it's like, okay, I think maybe you're emerging because you wrote a play about someone who has a different identity than you, but is that appropriating, or is that like, I don't understand it. So for me, I just see so many artists who are actually using theater to effectively change people's lives, whether it be through literacy, through education, through access, resource, and it's like those are folks who should be getting $15,000 because they're going to put it back into the community. Where are you when people need, and most importantly for Theater Philadelphia, I was at the first town hall that they had, and I said to Lee, you have the power and influence to dangle a different carrot in front of these theater artistic directors, people's faces, right? Because regardless if yes, it's about revenue, but it's also like people want to plaster Barrymore recommended, Barrymore winner on their theater, right? And that's you. That's your organization. So you can dangle a different carrot,
I've been to theaters opening night where that placard is facing the wall. We haven't even seen the show yet.
Right.
I'm like, how do you even have this written? How do you have this created already?
So my suggestion, because, Lee was very open to having a lot of conversations, but I kept hearing, well, why don't we
Goldenberg?
Lee.
I'm thinking about L.E. You talking about L.E.I.? Yeah, Lee.
Yeah, I was.
Sorry.
Yeah. Lee kept saying, I keep trying to have these trainings, and I'm like, well, that's a very passive way of taking action, right? Because I feel as though what you're asking now is marginalized people to train you on how to deal with us. Do you need training on how to deal with a human? Because I'm still a human, regardless of what my color is, what my gender is, or identity is, like I don't think you need training on that. I think it's accountability, and for me, I said to her, I think an immediate step is, just how theaters have to pay a certain amount to even be recommended and hit these other things, right? We need, because I kept saying, because I keep hearing, this year has been one of the most diverse years. Can you show me the stats? No, there are no stats. Well, how can you say that? How can you actually say you have the most diverse this or that when you actually don't have any stats about who's working off stage? Or I hear, we can't find any designers of color. We can't find any trans directors. And it's like, where are the stats? Because I don't agree with that when you look at the census of Pennsylvania and Philadelphia specifically. The people are here. The resources are here. One of the mayor's major platforms is getting the unemployment rate down in reentry, right? So when I said that to these folks, they're like, we would lose funding. I said, I think you would get unique funding if you had a whole season where everyone you hired backstage or on stage was folks reentering from society, reentering from incarceration, right? You're teaching them a skill set. You're making theater accessible. It's thinking outside of this box, and it's almost scary that, we turn to these folks in leadership positions that have no innovation. It's like you've been running this mill for how long this way, but there's so many other ways to reach people, and it's not just, Judy from Cherry Hill. There are actually people in Fishtown who would love to go see a play, but they don't want to see Gypsy because they can download it. It's been done. What's new? And I can't accept it from Philadelphia because you can go to pockets of New York City, you can go to Chicago, you can go to Atlanta, you can see so many other things happening. But it is happening in Philadelphia. It's just not getting that sort of, I hate saying attention, right? Because attention has weird connotations for me, but it's not getting the platform that it needs, and it is systemic. Yeah. When you look at it, it's systemic. And I just can't accept people saying, we invited them to this training, or this is the most diverse year. And it's like, I don't want to hear that in 2017, personally.
Now, I hear Lee's comment, but so I did an interview with Lee 2 months after she had joined Theater Philadelphia. And she basically said that her goal is to draw more attention to the theater community, essentially in a marketing capacity. So my question is it Theater Philadelphia's responsibility?
Well, they're called Theater Philadelphia.
I know, but at least, it's more of like I don't know, it's not rhetorical, but in general, it's like, how much can you do when you only have 2 or 3 employees?
And none of them, I think, are representative of Philadelphia on a whole. Yeah, it's very monochromatic, I'll say.
Well,
this is my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know. In my personal opinion, I just stopped caring a long time ago. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. I did a show called The Meeting with about a fictional meeting between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. And the production was with Alan Waller, who's the pastor of Enon, and Tarek Shabazz, who just ran for DA, and Walter Shields was in it as well. And 3,000 people saw it when we did it at the Koch Center, and then we did it at the Dell, and 15,000 people were there. So that means 4,500 people saw it.
I saw it at the Dell.
Okay. Now, again, I am not an administrator, and I am not a politician. It's like somebody, when I wrote the thing on Facebook, some dude called me, sent me a message. God bless him. But he was like, we want to be on this panel about diversity. I'm like, nah, dude, I don't want to do that. But it made me think, when I look at my own work, right, there's no theater company in Philadelphia. And I'm talking about major theater company. There's no major theater company in Philadelphia that, if they actually hire me to direct at their place, that almost 5,000 people are going to see the show. This is, if I do it at the Wilma and it's packed every day of the whole run and gets extended for a week, 5,000 people will not see it. So it made me stop and go, inclusion into what? Like, a lot of people saw it. And Alan Wilder paid me better than every major theater company in Philadelphia has paid me ever in 20 years. Mm-hmm. And he is a black man. Them audiences to see that show were overwhelmingly black. Like, I'm good. Like, that was the point I was trying to make with what I was saying about Michael. Like, I've known Michael 30 years. I met him when I was 17. God bless his dad. He's my brother. And the argument he and I used to have all the time used to make me crazy. Like, we made each other crazy. Because it would make me crazy how he'd be chasing these white people around, like going to these auditions constantly, not getting cast. And I'd be like, dude, come uptown with me and let's get busy. Let's have some fun. Like, why are you asking him? So we used to have this argument all the time. And then he would say to me, like, dude, you have a couple Barrymore. Like, why don't you never go to nothing? And I'm like, dude, because I go where people love me at. Like, that's what I do. Mm-hmm. So, we talk about this, we talk about this. So it hurt my heart when I saw that they didn't recognize, that they didn't say his name. Mm-hmm. I mean, even Poppy and, like, even them, that didn't bother me as much, the other black people that they didn't say, because if you take Richard Floyd, for example, he's somebody that the white community said they didn't know who he was.
Right.
I get it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was really ours.
Yes.
He was really ours. He was at Freedom. He was at Bushfire for years. That's where he really represented. So if they didn't know who he was, I get it.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about the white theater community in Philadelphia, Michael LeLand was Norm from Cheers. Like, it would be like if they did the last episode of Cheers. Anybody that remembers that show? Mm-hmm. And they didn't say nothing about Norm. If you were a fan of the show, you'd be like, huh? Like, how? Norm? Like, you ain't gonna say nothing about Norm? Right. Like, that's how they did him in Death. So that's what made me angry with the thing. But it wasn't about, I don't know, like, to quote my mother with this, like, and Ann Zorno Hurston with this, like, I believe in integration in law, but I don't necessarily need it in practice. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think white folk got every right to want to have a thing and it just be them. Like, I ain't got no problem with that. Like, I got a problem with you telling me I can't. But, like, whatever, dude. Like, if you're Italian and you want all your stuff to be Italian, now I'm only speaking for myself. Yeah. I ain't got no problem with that. But my thing is, as a black community, is we spend a lot of energy talking to people about diversity that don't want to do it. And when I think of diversity is something that comes from relationship, right? So when you look at an artist like Eminem and you look at who's around him all the time, those black men aren't around him because he's trying to be diverse. They're around him because they're his friends. Do you know what I mean? Or, like, perfect example, if I was going to do a film, there is a North Korean woman named Christina Cho. And if I was a producer and I was going to pick a director for a film, she's on the short list of people I would call immediately because she's extraordinary and blah, blah, blah. The reason I would pick Christina is not because right now we're almost at war with North Korea and we need to figure out ways to show our connection to North Korea. I would pick Christina because she's good and she is my friend and I know her. So the reason that their theaters aren't diverse is because they don't know any black people. Do you understand what I mean? Like, if you look at the public theater in the 80s and the 70s, the public was so diverse because Joe Papp had black and Latino and gay friends. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you understand what I mean? Like, George Wook was his friend. Like he knew them. So when he was asking people to come get down with him, they were people he was going to the bar and drinking with and going to the restaurant and eating with and bringing over his house. If you understand what I mean? Yeah, like, if you're not doing that, the only way to have diversity is to legislate it. Right. Like affirmative action.
Right. Otherwise, it's superficial.
Or it's not going to happen at all.
Right. Yeah.
What's going to happen is, because in philosophical theory, especially if you're talking about the theater, because the theater is a leftist institution by definition, right? So you're not going to find any white person in the theater who, if you're sitting around having a conversation, that's going to disagree that black people should be able to be in their theater. Like, they're not going to say no to that. But in the actual physical practice of doing it, they're going to do what everybody else does. You get on the phone, yo, I need an actor that's a certain age, blah, blah, blah. I'm calling Brian because Brian is my man, and I've been working with him for years. Why would I, if I have somebody that fits his description, why would I call somebody else when I know him? Or I'm going to call Carlo, I'm going to call Cash, or I'm going to call who I know, and they do the same thing. So for me, the issue is not diversity. The issue is us embracing our own work and competing in a way, particularly in a place like Philadelphia, where we are almost half of the population, where the gold standard of what excellence is us. That's what I'm on. Like, where we are the standard of excellence that everybody else is trying to get down with, as opposed to having that conversation with them. Because most of the work that I've done, that I felt like was the hippest work I've done, the funnest work I've done, the most important work I've done in the black community. And quite frankly, I've gotten paid better too. Do you know what I mean? I went to South Africa with Alan Waller and worked with people who had HIV and women who were in young women who were in sex slavery and people who were in gangsterism, and I directed a show with 60 of them, and it was the greatest thing I ever did in my life. Like, Alan Waller and Enon did that. Do you understand what I mean? Like, they did that. Like, not a theater company, and I'm a theater artist, and it was theater that I did. So I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm like, I'm not quite sure what I'm even talking to them for. Like, I do something at Theater Horizon that fits that's in your little wheelhouse. You see it, you call me to go to Barrymore's, I iron my slacks and I go. But other than that, like, I don't even know what we're talking to them for no more. Like, we need to be, like, freedom is a mess. They're not doing anything anymore. You got the people that are there running that into the ground. You got black people not working together. Like, Theater in the X is one of the hottest, most important pieces of theater that I've directed for them twice, and I'm like the elder person for them, which I can't believe I can say the truth. But, I mean, Theater in the X is what's up.
Right.
Like, my thing is, like, let's just say that we are what's up.
For real. Yeah.
And just stop talking to them. Because my thing is, and I'll shut up about it, but Brian's known me a long time. There is not one white, gay, Asian, whatever theater artist, like, you know how I am. If somebody call me up and they want to make some art and have some fun, I say yes.
Yep.
I just say yes. Like, it ain't even that complicated. Whether it's dough there or not, for that matter. I mean, sorry, Lisa. But, like, for real. Like, I mean, they don't call. But the issue is, I just think it's time to stop talking to them. And I think us talking to them about this is why we keep getting placated. It's like keep trying to talk to a girl that done told you she ain't into you all the time. It makes you look stupid. Do you know what I mean? Or like constantly trying to get into a party you know you're not invited in. Like, it makes you look like a nut. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not invited to the party. And if you are invited, then a meeting is not necessary. They just do it. Like, I've been doing this a long time, every major theater artistic director in Philadelphia knows me, knows my work, and has my phone number. I am not directing there, not because they do not know how to reach me. So whatever reason is, I'm not, but when I'm supposed to not make no art, because they're not called, you know what I mean? Like,
No.
Like, we are a big and powerful community, and I think it's time for the black community and other quote-unquote marginalized communities to stop thinking of themselves in terms of inclusion and to start thinking about themselves in terms of power. You know what I mean? Like, because you're right, things are shifting, and the shift that fixes racism, which is the pink elephant in the room, in my opinion, diversity is not what fixes racism. White folks going to the back of the bus for a period of time is what fixes racism. I mean, and that is an ugly and difficult thing to say, but it's just true. Like, I teach school. If I told you that there had been for a long time in the school a group of kids who have been playing a game and not letting other kids play the game, and they were using verbal intimidation, physical intimidation, actually beating people up. Parents were involved in helping this. There were teachers that were involved in doing this, and administrators. And then it was time to change that. There is not a person in the world who would say the appropriate response would be to go, okay, now everybody stop and everybody can play together. There's not a person in the world that would say yes to that. People would have to get fired. Kids would have to get expelled. And kids that profited from that would have to sit down and watch the kids that couldn't play for a minute. Everybody, I don't care who they are, would agree if it was their kid that that's what should happen if that was the case. It's the same thing with this.
Yeah.
So the racism thing isn't going to change until white people look at a landscape where the core is somebody other than themselves.
And so I want to collect that information statistically, right? Because I come from a place of working in like city government and public health where it's all data and stats. And so, you know, I have been talking to the Office of Public Engagement. I have been talking to Creative Philadelphia and now Theater Philadelphia. And it's like, well, I actually, you know, to appease me and people, right, I would love for you to put it on paper, you know, who you're hiring, why you're hiring them, and who's not being hired, right? And I want to see it statistically, right? And then you can turn to the Philadelphia Council on Human Relations and say, this is what's happening in your city, right? And these are the people who are doing it, right? These artistic directors, right? There's a whole slew of people who aren't being hired, right? So that legislatively maybe something can be done, you know, but I want statistics, and I don't see them in our community, theater community. Yeah.
So let me go back. You mentioned something about, you know, because they won't fund it.
Won't fund what?
You said something earlier about, you know, if there's too much diversity on stage. I think.
Oh no, that was Brian.
Brian said it, if there's too much of that diversity on stage, they might not fund that, or not fund.
I talked about that.
Okay, it had something to do with funding, and
I kept
because you said
everything that's been said to me is, oh my God, we're going to lose funding. We're going to lose funding. We're going to lose funding.
I'm sorry, because so you're talking about statistics. Do you think if we have those statistics, that funding would require it out of the companies that they keep giving money to?
So you mean if they didn't hire a certain amount of people of color, they wouldn't get the funding?
Or not necessarily making it a requirement, but sort of awarding. You know, I guess I'm trying to say like awarding diversity. If these funders are looking for something very specific, and usually they are tailoring a grant proposal to meet the needs of what they want to fund. And if they have those statistics, then do you think those statistics could change the makeup of what the funders want to fund, want to support?
I do, and I also believe, from my own experience, that it can expand unique and different funding opportunities and that's why I say the folks who are in leadership positions lack innovation, because there's so many different ways to get funding and use language and use different audience or work with different audiences to receive funding other than the way these folks have been. I don't know how they get funding now and what their requirements are now. I know I worked in every major theater here. I've worked in our education department, and I hear the way that they talk about black and brown children and what they use them for. You know,
really?
yes, that's and I'm going to say it because I have nothing to lose. I don't want to bury him. I don't really care.
I'm usually one of the people that gets hired who has been hired to go in and do those programs.
Right, I'm one of the frontline people. I like to call them.
Yeah, you go for it.
I've done
a lot of it.
All of them. I can literally call them all out, the way they talk about this. But it's like there are other ways to get funding that are going to emerge in communities. The Mayor's Office of Public Engagement, their whole thing is to make a government for its people. And they've hired me on many opportunities or consulted with me on many different things with how can you bring theater in to talk about gun violence in communities? How can you bring theater in to talk about, positive sexual health awareness? And it's like, I can't do this alone, where's Theater Philadelphia? Where's, these places, and it's like,
right.
They're not even thinking this way. And that's the scary part, that you're not even thinking beyond. It's a line from The Jewish Wife by Brecht. She begs her husband, to look beyond your own nose, and I just feel like they're not looking beyond their nose, which is their desk south of Broad.
And what's interesting that he says that is like the new mayor, I actually did a thing with him, and he's a good dude. Like I gotta say, he's a straight up, what do you call it? He's a stand up guy.
For real,
he really is. And with Kenny as the leadership right now, those type of institutions truly have no excuse.
Right.
Like he's accessible, available, present. And I know the thing I did with him, and I've done this through a couple of mayors. He did something that I had not seen one mayor do before. I was doing this thing with First Person Arts, and we were doing it at Girard College. There was all these kids that was like telling their stories, doing their whatever. And he came, did his little photo op with them, whatever. And all his little handlers were around. And he stayed, like he told them to chill. And he stayed till and we were a little late because they're waiting for the kids to come in. He stayed and made sure he heard every single kid speak.
Wow.
Made sure he shook every one of their hands, found out who had worked with them, went through the crowd, found me, made sure he made eye contact with me, shake my hand. I was like, yeah, all right. You know what I mean? So
thorough. Yeah.
He's a stand-up guy. So anybody that's saying, and from an institutional concept, that they don't know that they would have an ear from the leadership in this in particular time moment right now with the mayor we have, is just lying.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect to get to. There's a whole lot we can talk about here, and I know we're all busy people in this community. But I guess I'll wrap up with this. What do you want the administrators in our creative community to know? And does it really matter that they know? Because it feels like there's a couple of things here. There's one, it's that we just have to look out for ourselves and elevate ourselves. We can't keep going to these people who don't necessarily want our brand.
Well, let me just quickly. There is a good, I think, I'm not sure the word is, but there's a collaboration with, you talking about Cash and Terry Nolan with Arden, which I think is very positive and going in the right direction. Because he's just trying to bring a different audience in there. And I mean, but they've been doing good stuff, Arden has, as far as multiracial casting and all that stuff. So I applaud them with that, I always have. But I think that's a great thing, because I think some of these artistic directors, may be afraid, and because the blue hairs might not like it if you bring too many people of color and put them on stage. If you put a couple of black people in Holiday Inn or whatever, that aren't servants, and it's just but guess what?
See, I thought you was talking about the actual Holiday Inn.
Oh no, no, they definitely don't take white people.
I was like, why y'all gonna be at the Holiday Inn?
No, Holiday Inn is cool.
That's hilarious.
No, but I'm saying, but I think some of them are afraid that their bottom line is going to change because if they try to bring in something or try to some people just want things the way they were back in the 50s or but guess what? It's changing. The color of the human race is changing. We are going to be the dominant. People of color are going to be the dominant people. In a few more years. So. Yeah. You either get with the program or you stay behind. So I mean, I don't know how you can. It may have to be this forced when they see there's no other way. But I defer to these two gentlemen. I'm just an actor. I mean, and I'm learning about a bunch of stuff that I didn't know today. So I guess just open your eyes.
Yeah. What can our listeners do to help promote this?
Promote what?
This change.
Don't support people who don't
support you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. Like when you have, okay, I'm gonna go back to Enon. Big up to my man Alan Waller. That's my brethren. But like, here's what you do. If you know somebody in your community that got a little play or they got a little band or whatever, like when they go do something, go see them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if they need some money, like a perfect example, my age group, and your age group too. Actually, your age group, I know, that's what I'm saying. So your age group invented hip hop. My age group, like, got to 8 years old and saw it, right? And
you refined it and made it deeper.
And made it a thing. But the issue is, I think hip-hop is the perfect historical example of what needs to happen next. Right? Like, I can't go to Studio 54? I'm going to go to the park, and we're going to get down.
Right.
And when you look at what happened from Kool Herc going, we're going to go in the park and get down every Saturday from this point to this point, to now, that's 77 to 2017 multi-billion-dollar institution. Do you know what I mean? So it is not a pipe dream concept of what can happen when you actually embrace the community of people who support and love you and stop asking somebody else. Like it is a living, breathing, in front of us historical example of what can happen when you do that. Like, dumb, mean-spirited, childish division is the only reason Freedom Theater is not the most important theater on the East Coast.
Right.
And one of in the United States. And I'm not talking about of color. Yeah. I mean, of any theater. Like, it should be a core, like the Goodman or like Lincoln Center. Like, there's no reason in the world it's not that other than dumb, childish nigger mess of black people going, Master Boss, can I get in this?
I'm leaving it in.
Can I have $10,000 to make the parking lot into something that we can be proud of? Like, that's the kind of conversation we be having. And then when black folk gotta play, then you don't want to go see them.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? Like, that's the way to do it. I mean, it's funny. Jay-Z talked about it in 444 brilliantly. Like, the Jewish community, God bless them, they're the model, yo. Like, it ain't even that deep. And and I understand they're still white folks, but they are a very little community. Do you know what I mean? That just recently made it out of a genocide. So we're talking about a small group of people. But they look out for the damn cookout. Like, it ain't even that deep. And that's one of the reasons why I keep going back to the example of the meeting that I did with Enon. Because especially if you're talking about my experience of being a theater person in Philadelphia, I never had that kind of success before. But because they was black, you don't think of it as success. This is why I know we got finished, but this is why I keep bringing the Enon thing up. Like, I remember I used to say this joke all the time. Say to my wife, I'd be like, when black folks, you don't make no money. And then I had to stop myself. And I went, what times in my life as a theater artist, and it's been 20 plus years, have I made real money? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That New York bread. Because now I'm one of the few black directors that they have over the years hired to work at these places. I know for fact that when I work at these top tier institutions of Philadelphia, I get paid less than what they would pay a New York director when they hire them to bring them in. I know that for a fact, right? So I said to myself, like, where have I actually made the dough? And when I stopped just saying the white people got money thing and actually looked at the reality of my life, it's been from us.
Yeah.
Patti LaBelle paid me $10,000 to direct her when I was 24. Okay? That's just treated me like I was a child. I was 24 years old. I just got out of school. Sis paid me like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Alan paid me. I'm not even going to say what he paid me, but he paid me for that, and the show was only 3 days long. I had 5,000 people see that show, and if you add the one you saw at the Dell, that's a 4-day performance that 5,000 almost people saw. Like, why am I talking to them?
Right.
I'm like, even if they're calling me, like, that's the thing that hit me. Even if they are calling me, the dough is not going to be what they paid me, and the audience is not going to be that big. So, and as theater people who are really into real theater and all of that, like, we talk about Tyler Perry, and I don't particularly like his work either, but the concept is so what's up. Like Tyler went, like, I'm going to make this for who digs me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just that
lane.
simple. I'm going to play my lane.
Right.
The audience that likes me, I'm going to give it to them. And, he's loving life right now. Like, I just don't want to argue with nobody. Like, I'm almost 50. I don't want to fight with nobody. I don't want to argue. Like, I got my past indiscretions and negative things that people can say about me. But at the end of the day, I ain't a bad dude.
Yeah.
So if you work with me, we're going to have fun. Do you know what I mean? We're going to have a good time.
Make art.
We're going to make some art. The people will come. They'll like it. They won't like it. If the check clear. Like, it ain't even that deep. So I'm just done talking to them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't want to talk to them no more. And Michael and Lamb for me was like the exclamation point on it. Because I'm like, damn, my brother spent his whole adult life chasing them. And you can't even say his name when he died. Like, you can't. Yeah. I'm like, ugh.
All I want to say to the admin folks as Terrell is study your stats because I'm coming for you politically.
That's what they will respect.
And we'll leave that at the final thought.
I can't add, so I can't.
This was a great conversation, and I'd love to revisit it. Maybe have another conversation at another point. But I thank you for joining me tonight and having this conversation. And I hope the conversations that are coming up will, shed some more light on this and maybe present some kind of change, or I don't know, maybe I don't really know. It's tough because there's no like definitive answers, and besides just do what you want to do and let people find that, and just make sure that we're supporting it. If inclusion and diversity is what we're looking for, then we need to seek that out, and maybe pay less attention to what doesn't have that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let your money speak for it.
Yeah.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Theater Rex, it happens every summer.
Yeah.
Just go.
All right. Well,
that fixes this.
Terrell Green, Ozzie Jones, Brian Anthony Wilson, thank you so much for being here and chatting with us today. It was truly a pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Want to get involved with Broad Street Review? Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Contribute to find out how. Connect with us on social media on Facebook and Twitter at Broad Street Review. Thank you for helping to keep the conversation going.